What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto where you wanna.
Welcome to episode 1365 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. Season 5 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast hosted by FOTM Al Grego for Menaris and Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making her Toronto Mic debut, is senior editor for The Athletic, Sunaya Sapurji. Welcome, Sunaya.
Thanks, Mike, for having me. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, as it was.
Please do tell. So, were you just waiting for the call, or how did this work? Like when I did reach out and said, Sunaya, I want you on Toronto Mic to kick out the jams. Like, were you like, finally?
I was like, yes, I will come and kick out the jams 100%.
I'm so glad you're here. And I'm curious off the top, do any of your friends call you Sunny? Like, is this a nickname you've ever had?
You know what? One person I allow to call me, and that is Mary Ormsby. She is the only person.
Sunny.
Yeah, she's the only person I will allow to call me Sunny.
Mary has been here, and she came with her husband, Paul Hunter. Yeah, and they were both here in the backyard during the pandemic. And that was a great thrill to talk to Mary Ormsby. Later in this program, we're going to find out all about you and what you're up to, and then find out maybe you can shout out some women who have been breaking the glass ceiling when it comes to sports media, so we can get more Sunaya in our diet. But I want to do all this like between jams. I actually want to get to the first jam right away, which means, Sunaya, I have one quite... Notice I'm not calling you Sunny, because only Mary can do that.
Yes, only Mary is allowed.
I'm no Mary Ormsby. I learned this a long time ago.
Very few people are.
I need the full list. Okay, I am going to ask you this succinct, important question. Sunaya, are you ready to kick out the jams?
I am 100% ready.
You want to hit the post? All right. Thank you for the coffee. I'm going to drink the coffee Sunaya gave me while I wait for this jam to brew. What did you get yourself, a coffee?
Yeah, I got a latte. Yeah.
Fancy?
Fancy. Yeah, I'm fancy like that. I thought we would start off slow. A power ballad.
I like how it builds, actually. I almost wonder, we should have talked it up. But no, let's get the mood right off the top here. I think you've already surprised people, to be honest. So I can't wait to talk about it. I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Change this label mentally deranged. Dream the same thing every night. I see our freedom in my sight. No locked doors, no windows barred, no things to make my brain
Wow, I love how we're starting things off. Amazing. This is your first jam. What are we listening to, Sunaya?
We're listening to Sanitarium by Metallica off their Master of Puppets album. It's my favorite song off my favorite Metallica album.
Okay, you are older. Okay, how would I put this? Like you couldn't have lived this album. Like you're not old enough that you were around for this, were you?
I lived this. Well, you know what?
Show me your birth certificate.
Seriously, I had a friend named Tammy who I played softball with, and she had this cassette. And that's how I got into Metallica, and that was kind of my gateway into heavier music.
Love it so much. My gateway to Metallica was Much Music started playing, like occasionally would play one.
Yes.
And it was like a movie.
Yeah. And if you listen to this song, you will see like there are parts of this song that will remind you of one which they did later.
Right.
Yeah. No,
Right.
the first 3 Metallica albums for me are just like are perfect. Like I love them. Later Metallica kind of they lost me.
Well, you know, they sort of cleaned up and got stylish and then kind of refined the sound and crossed over. But yeah, I know what you mean exactly. And when you were in high school and, you know, you had to break off into your groups, right? You had like, I don't know, there were like jocks and the nerds and the stoners. Were you with the rockers?
No, you know what? I was kind of a chameleon. Like I kind of moved between groups because my musical taste was just so varied. You know, like I would hang out with the kids who listened to the Smiths and the Cure and the rockers and the jocks. Like, so yeah. It was
But did you have a denim jacket with like patches on it and maybe even safety pins?
I had a binder that was like scrawled, with everything, anything and everything.
Love it so much. You know what's tasting good? I'll just thank you very much and very kindly that you did bring me this coffee from a new Toronto coffee shop called the Sydney Grind, and this is delicious.
Yeah, it's just right around the corner from here.
Right around the corner from here. You know what else is right around the corner from here? Ridley Funeral Home, right around the corner from here. They're at 14th and Lakeshore. And I know Brad there goes to the Sydney Grind because he loves to support the local community.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you. Not enough guests of Toronto Mike come over and give me a coffee.
Well, I don't know. I was just raised like never to come empty-handed to somebody's house. Like so.
You were raised proper. I love it so much. Okay, I would have invited you many years ago if I knew that. Okay. And I'm like, my heart rate's up. Like I got to say, you're kicking off with this rocker jam, and as I was loading up your jams, I'm like, I don't even know why why do I even bother to guess what somebody's jams are? It's really difficult to guess somebody's jams, but you did surprise me a bit that your jams were heavier than I anticipated. They're not all heavy. There's going to be some hip hop and there's a whole bunch of different stuff, but I just didn't think I would be leading off today's Kick Out the Jam episode with Metallica.
Yeah, this is kind of what got me into heavier music. Like I just, you know, I think growing up with like Much Music and City Limits and the Power Hour, and
you are older than I thought.
See, like and Rap City, you know, like I think you got a varied taste of like what was out there musically. And then you know, my last year of high school, I ended up working at a campus community radio station, CHRY, which was it's on the campus
York,
of,
right?
Yes, yeah,
of course, yeah.
and that just like expanded my musical horizons even more.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay, what did you do at this station exactly?
So I started off as a volunteer at the radio station, doing whatever they needed doing, which was anything and everything. And then eventually I became volunteer coordinator, which was like a paid position. So I think I got like $50 a week for doing that job.
Wow, that's a real job.
Yeah, and then eventually I became the sports director there.
What came first, your love of sports or your love of music?
Oh my gosh, that's so
Or was
hard.
it like a tie? Like these are my passions.
It might be a tie, only because I grew up. My mom grew up in a very musical household, and so there was always music in our house.
What's your mom's jams?
Indian music, which is why we've got
just one.
Yes,
okay.
yeah,
No teaser. We're gonna hear it. I had. Yeah, we talked about it.
But you know, she also really liked disco and funk and anything you could dance to. Like she was a singer and like she liked to dance and have a good time, and yeah, she had a very nice voice. Like yeah.
And where did your love of sports come from?
That came from my dad. He was a huge sports fan, and so he was he grew up in India, and then when he was 16, he moved to England, and so he really liked, I guess
cricket.
Yeah, he loved cricket. He loved soccer. He loved tennis. He loved racing. He loved like horse racing and car racing. Like he loved maybe like not the North American sports, but he he took us to Jays games when we were small, took us to Leafs games, anything we wanted. He took us to a WrestleMania once that he like never ever let us.
6?
No, I think it was the one with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Was that number 1?
I think that was 1. Were they like, they weren't, yeah, I think that's number 1.
Yeah.
But where was that?
No, I don't know where it was, but he took us, it was like a viewing.
Wasn't it multiple locations, the
I
first
don't know.
WrestleMania?
We saw it, I think it was at the International Center.
Really?
Yeah, it was someplace near the airport that he took us to. And they were just showing it on a screen.
Right.
And he never let us forget that, because I don't think he enjoyed it at all.
Oh, he didn't love it. Okay, well, you see, I have Andre the Giant represented down here, and here's George the Animal Steel. Like, that's my, gosh, man, those early WrestleManias. I have such good memories of those. But wow, did I misjudge your age? That's going to make it. No, that's good. Now we're going to have more in common here. I like this very much. And
I'm old, Mike. I'm old.
Well, listen, you're not as old as me, so be careful what you say there. I'm going to kick out the second jam before I ask you many, many more questions. But I also want to thank you. You brought me a coffee, but I forgot to mention, you brought me like pastries. Like there's like 5 things in there and they look delicious. And honestly, you're a top 10 FOTM as far as I'm concerned. So you know exactly how to, butter up the host when you're on a program like this. Okay.
I was going to put Public Enemy on my list too, because I know you love them, but then I decided not to, because I know a lot of the guests I've listened to have put Public Enemy on their lists. So
okay, yeah, I see now you could have swapped out number 9 for like a Rebel Without a Pause or something like that.
It was going to be Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos.
And you could have done the tricky version. I like the tricky version of Black Steel.
I love that version too. Have you heard the Sepultura version?
No.
Sepultura is a Brazilian heavy metal band. They do an excellent version of that song as well. A cover of that song. Well,
Anthrax would be right up your alley, right? You could have done Bring the Noise, Public Enemy and Anthrax.
Yeah.
Like it's right up your alley.
But I chose number 9 because Flavor Flav is in the video.
Okay, you know what? You are really, you're really kicking ass in your Toronto Mike debut. My goodness gracious. Okay, I'm getting to Jam 2, and then I got more questions for you. Here, another hard one. Here we go. How's your heart rate right now?
This is like one of the best driving songs like you will find.
Could you run through my wall over here? I feel like I could. You want to run with me? Honestly, my heart rate's going. Like, I'm so ready for this. What are we listening to?
We're listening to the Melvins. They are my favorite. They're probably my favorite band. This is a song called Honey Bucket off of their album Houdini. I think if you're a certain age, you might. Much Music played the heck out of this video during the grunge era.
Because Melvins they're a Seattle band, right? Are they Seattle?
They're from Aberdeen, so close. Okay,
close. It's sort of like Nirvana's.
Yes, exactly,
right.
Exactly.
And big like influence on Kurt Cobain and Nirvana.
Very much so. Dale Crover, who's the drummer in this band, was at one point drummer for Nirvana before Dave Grohl.
Right, I'm sure that Chad. I want to say Chad Channing. What's the drummer?
Yeah, he was.
He was the Bleach drummer.
Yes.
And then they get Dave Grohl in there for Nevermind, if I remember my Nirvana history.
I believe so.
Honey Bucket. Okay, you know what? I'm trying to. Maybe it was like the Pepsi Power Hour or something. Like maybe it got like played during the specialty programming on Much Music.
Yeah. I just remember this was the first song I heard from the Melvins, and that's why I put it on the list because they're my favorite.
I love it. Okay.
I don't know if it's my favorite song now. It's one of my favorites for
sure.
sure.
Well, better be. You're kicking out the jams, Sunaya. So these are your favorite songs.
Well, they're not really my top 10 all-time favorite songs, only because like I do listen to newer music, but you wouldn't know it from my list. But these are kind of the songs that have influenced me, or like songs that I have a special connection to. And the Melvins, I absolutely love them. A couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to write a story about the Melvins and their love of baseball during the pandemic, and that's probably the highlight of my career.
I like it when people like yourself would find a way to weave like the music and sports together. They're my two like I love music and sports. Like they're two passions of mine, and when they interweave, it's amazing.
Same for sure. Yeah. And so during the pandemic, at The Athletic, we were kind of looking for new ways to tell stories because, sports had shut down. And so they decided to do like a music week where we could write about the intersection of music and sports. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write about the Melvins.
The Melvins. They're like, can you talk to Geddy Lee? And you're like, I'm talking to the Melvins.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm writing this story. And I was so nervous, Mike. Like my palms were like, I was like sweating.
Your palms are sweaty.
Yeah,
it's be hard but heavy. Mom's spaghetti.
Yeah, for sure. I was like so nervous because
wow.
I was scared that they might be jerks, but they...
Well, that's always the fear.
Yeah.
Like I sat down with Chuck D and I had the same, you're always worried.
Yeah.
And then when you come out of it and you're like, I like this guy, that's like just reinforces, it just edifies everything that you hoped. And it's a wonderful feeling.
Exactly.
And then you got to remember this. If they're jerks, they're probably not going to do the chat with you anyway. Like, I feel like a lot of people who've said no to the Toronto Mike, so you said yes to the Toronto Mike invitation. That was my first clue. Oh, Sunaya is probably a decent person. Like, she's probably a nice person because she's agreeing to like make the drive from like whatever, the city above Toronto or whatever, to sit in this guy's basement for 60 to 90 minutes. Like, that's my first clue. You might be pretty cool. And the people who, I don't know, like I could name them out, I guess. I don't care. I could name them. But the people who are like, no, like it's your first clue. They might be a jerk, Yeah,
but you know what? You also have to look at all the people who have already been on your show. You've had some like Chuck D. Like, am I trying to say that I'm better than Chuck D by saying no to Toronto Mike? No way. I don't want that karma.
Chuck did say yes to Toronto Mike, but his people did tell me Chuck was not going to South Etobicoke to sit in your basement. Like, that was like the note I got. And it's like, he's happy to sit with you, but not in your basement. And I was like, okay, Chuck D has the right to make that request.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if it's good enough for Biff Naked, it's good enough for me.
Oh my God, I love Biff Naked.
Me too.
She's like Canada's punk goddess.
I don't know her, but
she's a sweetheart. I'll introduce you.
She
would love
that.
You.
I would love. I think
she's in Mimico,
Oh,
like,
really?
We can walk over after this and say hi.
Just knock on her door.
She's actually so nice that you could knock on her door. She'd probably make you a tea or something and chat you up, and she would love to meet Sunaya. That would be like a thrill. What?
I do think we would be friends only because she likes Mastodon, and I love Mastodon.
She's so you're in the club now. You're kicking out the jam. So we went sometimes, like I did this with Brad Fay. I've done this with others, but typically there's like an episode before you kick out the jams. But we are merging them. Like we're just going straight to the jam kicking here. Like that's like I'm just pointing out for the listenership that often it's your second appearance where you kick out the jams. But seeing your jams and loading up your jams reminded me how much I love these episodes because we're going to learn so much more about you by walking through your jams. And those first two jams are both heavy, and I want to shout out Midtown Gord. I'm sure he's enjoying this jam kicking. But yeah, this is quite the start. Now, okay, we talked about, your dad, like, basically introducing you to sports and you fall in love with sports. But at what point in your life do you realize, hey, I would like to write about sports for a living? Like I would like to be a part of the sports media industrial complex.
You know what? When I was a kid, I don't know if you remember, Global TV used to have OHL Game of the Week.
I do, because Jim Ralph used to do it.
Yeah. And so I love that and Hockey Night in Canada. And I was like, Obviously, I'm never going to be able to play in the NHL or the OHL.
That's true.
maybe I can write about it or talk about it, or
You could be a part of it.
yes, on the periphery. Yeah.
Did you play though?
I didn't play hockey. I played like rec hockey. I did play in high school. I played sports, but not organized outside of high school.
So when you're deciding that I would like to have a part of this, even if I'm covering it, like as a journalist, like what's the next move? Do you start to map out? Okay, I need to go to this school. Like how do you go from I'd like to do this to actually doing it?
So I didn't go to journalism school. I started volunteering at CHRY, and that was kind of how I kind of got my foot in the door and learned the ropes, because we were very lucky. We had Mel Breutman, who used to work at CBC. He was an alumnus of CHRY, and so he would come and do our. We used to broadcast York Yeoman games. Now they're the Lions, but when I was there, they were the Yeomen.
Sure.
And so we used to broadcast those hockey games live, and he was the play-by-play guy. And so he was really helpful in like showing us how to be prepared and, showing us how to be professional and kind of what it takes to start in the business. And so he was very helpful with that.
Like a mentor.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. For everyone that was there. And it's kind of funny, but everyone who was a part of the sports department when I was there, almost all of them have gone on to work in the sports media, including Hazel May.
Wow, that's a big name you just dropped there. I think she's also a Mimico. So we can see Hazel, or I'm going to go visit Biff. Like we'll do the two for both good FOTMs. Okay. Wild. Okay, do you want to name check anyone else who you crossed paths with at CHRY?
CHRY. There are so many people that were working,
but like went on to like be a name we might know, like Hazel May,
like Matt Galloway.
Okay, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no. Matt was the music director when I was there.
Did you ever get on the air at York?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just checking.
I hosted the 5:55 Sports Report.
That was my favorite sports report. Was that 5:55?
And I also did I think I did an OHL show in the afternoon. And then Danko Jones, you might know.
Literally, well, he's been over, but I just talked to him about Suzanne Summers passing away because Danko's got a Three's Company podcast.
Huge Three's Company fan.
That's why I called him up.
Has been for as long as I've known him.
These are mind-blowing names you're dropping here. I need to slow down. Okay, so wow. Okay, so first of all, Matt Galloway, we breezed by it, but absolute legend, CBC radio legend here, and an early guest of Toronto Mike, I want to say, and I say that because there's no picture of Matt and I by the tree. Like, I think I introduced the tree photo at 100 and something, and he's pre-tree. There's no tree photo of Matt and I, although we did snap a picture down here in the studio. But Matt Galloway, that's a big name, and Hazel May is a big name. These are two monster names in this marketplace. And who was the third person? He was a big name.
Danko Jones.
Like, Danko Jones is probably playing in Sweden right now.
Yes, probably.
Like,
I know
this
they're
guy's
on
amazing.
Their European tour. Also, JC, who's also in the band with Danko. John, he didn't work at the radio station, but at the time he was in a different band called Cat Rocket with a K, and so he was always at the radio station.
Did you ever think I'll just be like Ben Rayner or Brad Wheeler or whatever? I'm gonna cover music in this market.
No, you know what? Only because I didn't think I knew enough about maybe the technical aspect of music. I know what I like, but I sometimes can't explain why I like it.
Okay,
if
but
that makes
meanwhile,
sense.
in sports, you understood the technical aspect of sports
more so than in music. Yeah.
Okay. More questions for you, but we're gonna get to this third jam. You ready? Mm-hmm. And that's it. I love it. We could play the whole damn thing. Okay, what are we listening to there?
We're listening to Seeing Red by Minor Threat.
Wow. There is a hardcore punk episode of Toronto Mike with Brother Bill. Who else was on that episode?
Is that the one with Sean Cherry? And the guys
that was
from
a different one.
Youth?
No, but that was a good one too. Because in that episode that you're referring to, I think we talked to the guy from Attic Records, who sadly has passed away since then. But Attic Records had who was on Attic Records? A whole bunch of Anvil, I think, a whole bunch of heavy metal rockers. But Killer Dwarfs.
Oh yeah. They had great videos. Of
course. I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna love this chat. Okay, but back to Seeing Red.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a 1 minute song.
Yeah, so Minor Threat are probably one of the most influential hardcore bands ever, and I chose this song because when I was at the radio station, a guy by the name of Steve Perry, who helped Sean with that book that they put out,
right? Tomorrow
is Too Soon. Which looks at the hardcore scene in Toronto in the 80s, I think. He introduced me to all kinds of just amazing hardcore and underground punk. He still does a show. Steve used to do, he used to be the station manager, and he used to do a show at CHRY called Fast and Bulbous on the Spot. And that, the beginning of that song was used in an ad for his show. And I love Minor Threat. Steve does a show at CIUT now called Equalizing X Distort.
Okay. And this is what is it? 105 point. What is CHRY if you want to?
Oh no, CHRY no longer exists. So they changed form. It is 105.5, but it's no longer CHRY. They reformatted it, and now it's an all urban radio station.
Okay. I have more information. So the gentleman from Attic, because I didn't name him because what's his name again? Alexander Mayer. Okay, so he's the founder of Attic. Sadly, no longer with us, but he was on that episode with Sean Cherry. Okay, that's different. Chris Turner and Derek Emerson came over. They wrote a book called Eve of Darkness, Heavy Metal in Toronto. So I'm conflating episodes here.
Okay.
And we talked, yes. And so when we talked about the Attic Records, for example, Lee Aaron.
Right.
We mentioned Killer Dwarfs.
Sacrifice?
Razor, Anvil. Okay. I don't know if Sacrifice is in there because I'm a little, out of depth here. But the Sean Cherry episode, because that's important to me that I get this right. Sean Cherry came over with. Do you remember? I'm glad you listened. By the way,
it was some of the guys from Youth.
Oh, here it is. Brian McCullough. Okay, and Al Nolan. I love this guy. See, he'll go to a show and he'll be working it's amazing, this guy, Al Nolan. Okay, so to get this right, that was episode 1051. It was Al Nolan, who was with the almighty Trigger Happy, Brian McCullough, who's a drummer for Youth, and Sean Cherry, who wrote Tomorrow is Too Late, and that was all about the Toronto punk scene. You're right, an hour. That was a great episode about punk. So I'm glad you're listening, and I'm looking now. Al Nolan's wearing the denim jacket I envision you wearing in high school. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Emory Collegiate Institute.
And where's that?
It's Weston Road in Finch.
Okay. Well, You listen, okay? It sounds like a cool spot. You could have had a great denim jacket like Al here, but right. So now we've got you're volunteering. Well, you get $50 there. That's not quite volunteering, but you are at the York station. You're doing the 555 sports update. I'm going to kick out this next jam, and then I'm going to find out what's the first gig for you after that. Obviously, we're getting you to the athletic, and then I have more questions, but I want to get to another jam because I'm really enjoying this. And shout out to all the rockers out there.
The money from her accident, she bought herself a mobile home, so at least she could get some enjoyment out of being alone. No one could say that she was left up on the shelf, and she and me against the world, kid, she mumbled to herself. When the world falls apart, something stay in place. Levi stops, tears run down his face. She ran away from home.
took to vote. Her husband was one of those blokes, the sort who only laughs at his own jokes. The Civil War takes away, and when there wasn't a war, he left anyway. When the world falls apart, some things stay in place. Levi Stubbs' tears run down his face. Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong are here to make right everything that's wrong. Alan and Dozie too are here to make it all okay with you. And one dark night came home.
Levi Stubbs' Tears. What are we listening to, Sunaya?
The great Billy Bragg.
I consider Ron Hawkins Canada's Billy Bragg. What say you?
Sure, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. And that's not just because he was the last, I think he was the last person in the studio. We came over with Lawrence Nichols from Lowest to the Low. They played a jam down here. But tell me about why you love this song by Billy Bragg.
This is a great song. I really like storytelling songs, and I think this is a great one. Billy Bragg is definitely one of those really great storytelling singers, and through him I got into people like John Prine, who is another like phenomenal storyteller. Woody Guthrie, yeah, for sure. And so I also picked this song because when I was a kid, our parents used to send myself and my sister to England for the entire summers. They would put us on a plane as like unaccompanied minors.
Sure.
And all of my family, like my grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, they were all in England. And so my grandmother and my uncle, they both lived in Ilford, which is right next door to Barking. It's like less than 2 minutes away. Like the subway station you would take to go anywhere is in Barking, and that's where Billy Bragg is from. So.
Okay, love it so much. How come you didn't develop? I feel like you could have done what Madonna did or whatever, come back here with a British accent.
No, I left. I was born in England, but I left there when I was...
You were, see, look,
Yeah.
we're learning things as we kick out the gym. So how old are you when you come to Canada?
About 5.
Okay,
Yeah.
so those first 5 years you're in England.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we moved here, but we would go back every summer more or less because it was cheaper than camp, I think.
Well, again, you got to get rid of the kids. I understand that. Vernon Reid, by the way, also born in England.
From
Living Colour.
Living Colour, yes.
And guitar hero. Top of mind only because just on the weekend I decided I have some old, like some videos that were never shared. This is not a video presentation. This is Toronto Mike, an audio presentation. This is a podcast. But sometimes I do capture video, and then I thought, I have this video of me chatting at Vernon Reid. I think I'll share it.
Oh.
So it's on my YouTube, my Toronto Mike YouTube channel. If you want to watch my chat with Vernon Reid from Living Colour.
That's so cool.
He's a freaking legend. I mean, he's right up there. So that's why I'm thinking of Vernon Reid. And I also remember he was born in England. And you're born in England. Well, Vernon, of course, also does not have a British accent. Very young when he moved to New York City. So, all right. Loving the jams so far. Now, so you're at York University. What's the next for you now? And and along the way, I'm curious because what was the goal back then, and has the goal changed? Like, maybe you're living the goal because I'm kind of saving this, like what you're doing now. I'm saving it for later. But what was the goal? Like, were you like, I want to be Ron McLean? Like, what was the deal?
Yeah, to some extent, I just knew I wanted to do something in sports. I wasn't sure what that was, but while I was at the radio station, I got a part-time job at the Markham Economist and Sun. Yeah, fancy.
Okay.
Writing.
I love that publication. Is that still around?
You know what? I think, sadly, they might have cut it in when Metroland closed all of their, or closed most of their
That's when we lost the print version of the Etobicoke Guardian.
Yeah, so I think it might only be online now. I'm not really sure what's happening with the Markham Economist and Sun.
Okay, what were you doing with them?
I was covering Tier 2 Junior A hockey. Okay. I was covering the Markham Waxers. And so I got to travel on the bus. And then I would write game stories about the Waxers.
Well, you know what? That's great because you're cutting your teeth, so to speak, right? You're getting in your
100%.
reps, covering the Waxers. I just learned the Waxers exist, and now they're my favorite team. And you got to start somewhere. So if your dream is to cover the Toronto Maple Leafs, let's say, then start with the Waxers and improve your skill set and get rocking. And that's what you did.
Exactly. And actually, funnily enough, one of the players that I covered on the Waxers at that time was Jay Woodcroft, who was recently let go by the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay, so they get waxed, pun intended, by the San Jose Sharks, which is the worst team in the league. And I follow this closely because my wife is from Edmonton, so I'm always like, I'm always kind of, I won't call it Schadenfreude, but it's kind of fun when I see things going to shit over there, right? Because it's like, okay, a lot of people pick them to be the Stanley Cup champions this year. Like, that's just a fact. So it's fine. But then they had that game. I don't know. They had a big win. And I want to say Hyman scored like a natural hat trick in the first period. A big win. So it's after the big win. I feel like it's strange when you fire the coach. Like, I know they made the decision before the big win. But it's like, maybe we don't fire him. What if he never loses again? Like, this is a big win. What if they just go on a big streak here? But no, they pulled the trigger and let him go.
Honestly, I think it was less about Jay and more about bringing Chris Knobloch in. My personal
view. We value your personal opinion because you're a sports journalist.
Only because Chris had coached Connor McDavid in Erie, and I actually got to see a lot of them together because I was covering the league when McDavid was with those Otters teams, and they had a very good relationship. So I'm not too shocked by Chris Knobloch coming in. But I do feel bad for Jay.
Any relation to the great third baseman Chuck Knobloch?
I do not believe so.
I always like that guy. One quick thing. So you know how now you learn about how Taylor Swift is so big. And I noticed, spoiler alert, you're not kicking out any Taylor Swift. I noticed here. But Taylor Swift is so big. Like, she's almost in a different hemisphere herself. Her tour is going to end up being like the most lucrative tour in the history of of any musical tour. This is wild what Taylor Swift is up to. Now you have like newspaper chains like have hired somebody. Like, your job is just to cover Taylor Swift. Like, I feel like you seen Connor McDavid with the Erie Otters. You could have been like, I'm the Connor McDavid journalist. Like, I just covered this guy because I remember, because we're similar vintage, even though I've got a few years on you, but I know that the last time we heard buzz of the nature of Connor McDavid, the last time I felt that was Sidney Crosby. When 14-year-old Sidney Crosby is like, watch this kid. Like, this is you're the next one. And look at how he turned out. Like, Connor McDavid, we had the same buzz, I want to say, about Connor McDavid. You could be the Connor McDavid expert.
Yeah, I just think at that time, I don't know if the funds were there to have someone go and live in Erie.
Right. And it's also dangerous. Like, you'll be the Connor McDavid expert, and then he'll be a bust or he'll bust up a part of his body or something. And anyway.
The other thing is, have you ever seen interviews with Connor McDavid?
You know what? Can I tell you? So, yes. And I also watched like a reality show about real estate. You probably saw it, but there was where him and his girlfriend, I want to say, they walk you through their mansion and yeah, he's not an, he's no Joey Votto.
No, exactly. And so I think if that had been pitched to me, like, I don't know if I could have survived a year doing that. It's odd though, because do you remember when Carlo Koliakovo and Brad Boys were Leaf picks?
Yeah.
When I was working at the Star, they would send us to Erie to cover the two of them.
Right.
Just because they were Leaf picks. They didn't really care about the Otters, even though they had a very good team and they won the OHL championship that one year.
No, I totally see that, and I do remember the buzz, particularly around Carlo Koliakovo. Finally, Bourrier is back. Like, this is fine. Like, I remember the buzz. Okay, so you mentioned the Toronto Star there, which means at some point you leave this wonderful institution in Markham, Ontario, Canada, for the Toronto Star gig. So why don't we kick out another jam and then find out what you were doing at the Star? And I'm guessing this is where you meet Mary Ormsby. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. another Sunaya jam.
I feel like talking, but don't preach. I'm alright. God don't make no junk, so you see, I'm alright. There's nothing wrong with me. I feel like taking off my clothes now. That sound is putting me to sleep.
God made the birds, and God made the bees. She's canned oxygen to me.
I'm sure I had enough to know when
Canned oxygen. Who are we hearing here?
This is the Halo Benders. This is a bit of an obscure pick. This is a side project of Calvin Johnson of Beat Happening, not to be confused with former NFLer Megatron Calvin Johnson.
Right. Imagine it was the same guy. Because we try to bring these sports worlds and these music worlds together. So
Yes,
that's what we're doing here.
exactly. So Calvin Johnson, also of K Records in Olympia, Washington, and Doug March of the band Built to Spill. They had this side project, and I think they put out 3 albums under the Halo Benders moniker. This one is God Don't Make No Junk, which is a favorite of mine. My best friend Linda, she does not fly. She's never been on a plane. And so we used to take tons of road trips, and this would always be in our cars, this album.
Okay, God Don't Make No Junk
Yeah.
could have been kicked out. I had Cliff Hacking on last week. He's from EPRA, and they are the people behind recyclemyelectronics.ca. We were kicking out, I was kicking out like junk jams and trash jams, but I didn't know about God Don't Make No Junk. I would have played this.
It's pretty obscure. Yeah.
All right, when you get a chance, go listen to Cliff Hacking. Learn more about recyclemyelectronics.ca. I'm totally digging this because, I joke that there's no Taylor Swift on here. Well, it's these are, I know Billy Bragg. Everyone knows Metallica. But these are, lesser known, generally speaking, if you find a random 20 people on the subway or whatever, and you ask them about these bands, you're not going to get a high hit rate.
Probably not. Yeah. Well, I guess it would
I don't think the
depend on-
Melvins. I don't think if you got random 20 people on the subway and said Melvins, one of those 20 knows the Melvins. I'm telling you.
Really?
Yeah, because Melvins. Name a. Because you know what? I figured this out. Name a Melvins hit.
Honey Bucket or Night Goat?
No,
Night
I'm sorry.
Goat?
They're not actually hits. I know they're hits in the Sunaya universe, but in the general populace, they're not hits. They're not hits. And you might find them on Much Music, but I think you got to be looking in the right places. They're not on regular rotation on Much
Maybe.
Music. Only because I feel like at this time I was watching a lot of Much Music. And yes, I got some blind spots, which are kind of shocking, or maybe I just don't remember. I do have some blind spots, but I don't remember seeing the video for Honey Bucket.
Really?
And I'm not saying they didn't play it, because of course you saw it on Much Music. You were there. But I don't remember, and I feel like that's my kind of jam, and I don't remember seeing it. I'm just telling you, Seeing Red wasn't on Much Music.
No.
Maybe
that
if
wouldn't
Strombo
be-
had a
no.
punk show or something.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know.
that.
And then even Billy Bragg. When did you see Billy Bragg played on Much Music? It was it would be specialty programming. It wasn't on regular
Probably.
rotation.
Yeah.
So these are very, and that Metallica was played a lot of Much Music, but not that
but
jam.
not that song. That is a very underplayed Metallica song.
So that's why I'm actually thoroughly enjoying this, because I did not know what I was going to get, and this is amazing.
It's a real grab bag. That's
I love
for
it.
sure.
Although I will say that's the first half is now concluded here. The second half, you got some big hits in the second half.
Yes.
There are songs
Yeah.
people will know and love, and so stay tuned. Although there is a song coming up that I can't wait to talk about, because it's so out of my wheelhouse, my comfort zone, my universe, that I can't wait to learn about it. But great jams coming up. You brought me coffee, and you brought me pastries, delicious pastries. I can't wait to devour, but I have something for you.
Oh, awesome.
Would you like a large lasagna from Palma Pasta?
I would love one. Thank you, Mike.
So you're taking that home with you. Do you drink craft beer?
I do.
Okay, I have fresh craft beer for you from Great Lakes Brewery. So you're going home with the Palma Pasta. You're going home with the beer from Great Lakes Brewery. All of that is delicious and fresh. And what are you doing on December 9th?
I'm not sure.
Well, okay, so from noon to 3 p.m., there is a TMLX 14 event. That's the 14th Toronto Mic'd Listener Experience. Imagine, like, this is in like Upper Mississauga. I feel like this is a short drive for you.
Oh.
Like this, you don't have to come into the city. It's like Burnham, Thorpe, and Mavis area.
Oh, okay.
It's Palma's Kitchen. You come there, hang with us. Palma Pasta will feed you. So come hungry, darling. Okay. Great Lakes. I got a fresh can of Great Lakes for you that I'm gonna bring from the South Etobicoke headquarters. And you get to jump on the fourth mic and say hello, introduce yourself, and you get to enjoy a Pandemic Friday reunion because the great Stu Stone and Cam Gordon will be there with me. You got to come. It's noon to 3 on December 9th at Palma's Kitchen. I want to see you there.
I guess now I know what I'm doing December 9th.
Thank you. And one more gift here before I get to your 6th jam. This is a wireless, leave it there. I was holding it for you to take it from me.
Sorry.
So you're holding me out here. You left me hanging, but that is a wireless speaker. Moneris has nicely given that to you. So you can listen to not only Metallica and the Melvins, you can listen to season 5 of Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by Al Grego, who has been, he's gone east this time, so Maritimes and Newfoundland, and he's collecting these inspiring stories from small business owners and entrepreneurs like me, and he shares these stories, and he's very good at this. That's why he wins awards. Yes, We Are Open, Season 5, dropping now. You've got your wireless speaker.
Thank you so much, Mike. That's very kind of you.
Thank you, Moneris. Thank you, Palma Pasta. Thank you, Great Lakes Brewery. And I know I mentioned Ridley Funeral Home over earlier, but this is a measuring tape for you, courtesy of Ridley Funeral Home, pillar of this community since 1921. You ready for a 6th jam?
I am.
There we go. Here we go.
Taking a ride with my best friend. I hope he never lets me down again. He knows where he's taking me where I want to be. I'm taking a ride with my best friend.
Never Let Me Down Again, Sunaya. Who's singing this? What are we listening to?
Depeche Mode.
There you go. Okay, now I think you get a higher hit rate now when
Yes.
you randomly get those 20 people on the subway.
For sure. I actually saw them in concert a week ago Sunday.
Hey.
At the Scotiabank Arena. So what does that seat? Like about 19,000?
Yeah, well, that's for like hockey. I feel like if you put a concert there, you can get like 20K in there. I
Well,
think.
it was sold out. So
Nice.
I think you'd probably be able to find someone on the subway. Who knows? Depeche
No.
Mode. Just
Depeche
based
Mode,
on
big
that.
fucking deal.
Just,
Depeche Mode.
just based on that. And I was thinking about it the other day. They are a band that has been with me from grade school, like now to where I have a kid in grade school. Like
You have a kid in grade school.
I do.
How old's your kid?
He's 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a 7 and 9-year-old. Like I feel
Oh.
like we could get them together for like a
Yeah.
play. Do we call it a play date when they're 8? That sounds like a toddler thing. But yeah.
Will they be there on December 9th?
You know what? I think so.
Okay.
Bring your kid. Yeah,
I
that's
will.
another thing. Bring your kid. It's a family. I mean, I don't know. Stu might swear, but it's pretty family friendly. Well, if Elvis gets on the mic, there might be some F bombs, but
Let me just
pretty
tell-
family friendly.
I'm pretty sure my kids heard plenty of F-bombs.
Well, the last jam, I will tell a little story about censored versions versus uncensored
Yes.
versions. So we'll save that story. But
Okay.
Depeche Mode, I will say, when I was in grade school too, big deal, Depeche Mode. And I remember going to high school. I went to Michael Power High School, which is also in Southern Etobicoke. And I would argue maybe the biggest bands at the time in that high school were like Depeche Mode and The Cult.
Yep.
Like these were the two big bands, and absolutely monster bands. And I'm glad you're still able to see them, because Dave had some mental health challenges,
Yes.
and I'm just glad that he's still with us and kicking ass.
Me too. And they just lost Andy Fletcher recently, and so they're both, Dave and Martin are both in their 60s now, and I don't know how much longer. I have to say, for being in their 60s, they put on a phenomenal show. But I just don't know how much longer they're going to be touring. So I was like, you know what? Let's go and see them while I still can.
Well, if you have a couple of $1 million in the bank there, you can get Neil Young to play the Rivoli at a private party. I learned that. Yeah, this happened. So it's funny, because that night I was at the Horseshoe Tavern. And you know how close the Horseshoe is to the Rivoli.
Right.
So I was there to see Art Bergman, FOTM Art Bergman. By the way, that's an episode. I'm telling you, what a wild episode. I've been chatting with Art about it. He says it's the best interview he's ever had. And I now have decided to believe him. So listen to Art Bergman on Toronto Mike. That was like a week ago. And I had just seen Art Bergman at the Horseshoe Tavern. And that night I'm biking home. So I'm biking west on Queen. And I noticed at the Rivoli, there's a camera crew. Like, there's activity. This is about, I think it's after midnight, because it was a very late show. And lots going on there. And I kind of slow down. I pull over, and I'm trying to see, what are they filming here? I'm always curious, like, what is being filmed here at midnight on Queen Street or whatever? And then I couldn't figure it all out, and I went home, and then I learned it was a private party, and Neil Young was in there performing for, like, the guy who, I don't know, CEO of, like, Canada Goose or something like that.
Wow.
Like, this is, yeah. So if you have the cash, you can, this is a whole part of the world. Ron Hawkins, we talked about earlier from Lowest of the Low, we were chatting. He'll play living room shows. Like if you, that's a lot less expensive than Neil Young, obviously, but you cut a check and he's happy to play your living room for you and your friends and family. Like, maybe it's your birthday party. In fact, the VP of Sales has a 50th birthday coming up, and we're discussing maybe paying for Ron Hawkins to play that party. So you can do this if you have the cash.
That's pretty awesome.
Isn't
though.
it? You can get Depeche Mode to play a party if you pony up enough cash. I wonder what they charge. I bet you they want like at least $750,000 for Depeche Mode. What do you think?
I think it might be more than that, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, what do I know? Inflation and
Only
everything.
because they also have like a pretty awesome, like they're kind of theatrical, so they've got like the whole show.
Oh,
and
you
the
don't get that
lights
for
and-
$750. You just get it's like an acoustic show, but amazing. I love Depeche Mode. How do you end up at the Toronto Star, and what did you do there?
So I answered an ad in the Toronto Star, but it didn't say what the job was for. And I eventually got the job, and it was as a copy editor, but it was for a new venture of the Toronto Star. So I was paid by the Toronto Star, but I wasn't technically working for the Toronto Star at that time.
Did you work at 1 Yonge Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but on a different floor doing something totally different.
What were you doing?
It was for it's hard to explain. It was for a sports betting game called Sports Pick. It was very much ahead of its time. And so
Yeah, because that wasn't like legal, was it? Was that legal?
it was
back
not.
then?
So there was a
Yeah, you couldn't-
betting aspect to it, but yeah, it was more of a game.
Because they could, yes, because at that time you would promote the game, which was legal, and then once you're in the
Right.
game, you'd be sold in like how to do sports betting. I'm guessing
It was something like that. It was kind of convoluted, but anyway, it didn't last very long. It lasted for about a year or less than a year, and so I was laid off. And then one day, the guy who I was working for, Phil Bingley, who was at the Star, saw me on the streetcar and sent me an email saying, "Do you want to come back and work at the Star?"
Oh, really?
Because they had a copy editor opening in their the website of their sports department. So I ended up going back.
And is that gig at 1 Yonge Street?
Yes.
Okay, because
And-
I did many moons ago. I applied for a job at Torstar Digital,
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't One Young Street. Like this was like Peter Street and King or something like
okay.
that. Like, yeah. And I remember that it was like the discussions, because I got pretty deep in this thing. Like I almost got this stupid gig. It would have changed everything maybe. Who knows? Maybe the best thing that ever happened was not getting that gig actually. But I remember the discussions about how the One Young Street old Tour Star not interfering with the Tour Star Digital and what they were doing there, and it was a different location. Like that was a big thing. Like was because they were very conservative at One Young Street in the old Tour Star ways, and here they were trying to do this Tour Star Digital thing. Well, anyway, I didn't get that gig. So
I wonder if that's where they were doing like the ads and the classifieds, because they were always very cautious about keeping the advertising away from editorial. So maybe
and rightly so. Good.
Maybe that's what that was.
Okay, so how long were you at the Toronto Star? And anyone other than I want to talk a little about Mary Ormsby here, if you can. But how long were you at the Toronto Star?
For 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time. So I pretty much worked with everyone while I was there.
You want to name check them? By the way, I've never worked anywhere for 10 years. Like never. And no, I've never had a job for 10 years. Like that's amazing.
I worked with Mary and Paul. I worked with Rick Matsumoto. I worked with Mark Zwolinski, Ken Campbell, Kevin McGrant. Like I worked with seriously everyone.
He's still there.
Yeah, everyone who was the late Randy Starkman, who was just the best guy.
What about like a Damien Cox?
Yeah, I worked with him occasionally. Yeah.
What do you think of Damien Cox?
He was fine to work with when I was there. He was on the Leaf beat. He was the hockey columnist at that time. I was covering the OHL and copy editing while I was at the Star.
Does anyone cover the OHL for the Toronto Star anymore?
I don't believe so. I don't think so.
I don't even think, like, Kevin McGrant told me they don't even like to cover, like, third-line wingers on the Toronto Star. Like, on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally, like, can we talk more about, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, maybe Tavares, and maybe Morgan Riley.
It's kind of crazy that when I was there, the Sun also had somebody on their OHL beat. They had Terry Koshan, and then after Terry moved to the Leafs beat, they had Mike Kareen covering the OHL, and so there was the
good old days.
Yeah, healthy competition. It was great. I love those guys. I loved beating them.
Okay, so Mary Ormsby, many a woman in sports media has commented that she was a bit of a role model, like to emulate, because she had great. Not only was Toronto Star, but also on the radio. Like you would hear her with Steve Simmons, for example, on the Fan 590. Like Mary Ormsby, big deal. Was she at all like a role model, something you could aspire to?
Huge role model. Just like an amazing person, and you would see Mary in the way she interacted in the sports department, and it was huge to have someone like that to look up to. And not only that, I think the biggest thing I got from Mary while we were working at the Star together is that while she was able to have a family. Like she and Paul have kids, and she was able to do that work-life balance, and it showed me that I can have that too. Like I don't have to put my career before my aspirations of having a family. So that was huge for me.
Amazing. Here's a jam I'm not familiar with. You're going to have to explain a lot of things here,
Okay.
But let's kick it. listening to?
We are listening to Thora Rashnam Lagta Hai. And I want to preface this by saying I do not speak or understand Hindi.
Okay.
But this is from the great Lata Mangeshkar, Indian songstress. So I mentioned that my mom loved Indian music. My mom understood and spoke Hindi. So we grew up speaking and hearing Gujarati in our house. So there are some similarities in words, but she was fluent. And so when we were kids, she would take us to the old Don Lance cinema, and we would watch Indian, like Bollywood films before it was Bollywood. And so Lata Mangeshkar's songs were always in all of the movies we went to go and see. And like my mom would be playing like Lata Mangeshkar tapes in the car when we were being dropped off to school. So this was like a huge part of my childhood, listening to her music. The other thing I like about this song is, I don't know if you remember a song by Truth Hurts called Addictive. It sampled this beat, or it used this beat and sampled her voice and this song. And it was then hit with a $500 million lawsuit because they didn't clear the sample. And they ended up winning. I don't know if there was any financial settlement, but they had to pull all of the records and like CDs and stuff off of the shelves.
It's like when Vanilla Ice did not clear the sample of Under Pressure for Ice Ice Baby. Do you know that? And he tried to argue initially that it was different. None of us were buying what Robert Van Winkle was selling there. But at some point they settled out of court because it obviously was ripped off. But I feel like this was commonplace. Like I want to say, did MC Hammer clear Super Freak when he put out You Can't Touch This? I know how would you know? But I feel like that might be a similar story, possibly, that they might. I think they had to add Rick James as a co-write on that one because, of course, that's built. These songs are built on other people's music. So absolutely interesting there. So this song was for your mom.
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't know what she's saying.
I don't.
She could be saying
but you know
anything.
what? The funny thing is, when we would go to these movies, I would have no idea what they were saying either. So
okay, and there's no closed captions. There was no closed captions.
No, not
on the
at
screen?
that time. There was no subtitles or anything like that.
Interesting.
It was, yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with old Bollywood movies, but they were kind of like those old kung fu movies where
the dubs.
Where it wasn't dubbed though, but the action was just like ridiculous. Like you'd have Amitabh Bachchan like jumping off a 2-story building and then fighting 10 guys like without a scratch.
That's another blind spot for me. Add it to the list, but I gotta catch up on my Bollywood. I feel like I'm missing out because it looks thoroughly entertaining.
The movies are, especially the older ones, are pretty entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that so much. Okay. So I must ask, so you are obviously you are of South Asian descent.
Yes.
Okay. This makes you a woman of color.
Yes.
Fun. That's a fun fact for you. Okay. I'm here to educate you here.
Thanks.
I'm here to mansplain how this works to you. There's not, and this is my observation, there hasn't been a lot of representation in sports media in this country, in Canada. I'm speaking of women of color. Like we talked about Hazel May earlier. Mm-hmm. There's Hazel May. Now you have Nikki Reyes periodically pops up here and there. She's been on the phone. Kayla Gray pops up here and there, absolutely. And she's also an FOTM. So you're now in that great club. But there's not a lot of examples that you can point to. I'm wondering your thoughts on that. Like where are the women of color in Canadian sports media?
That's a hard one. I'm hoping it gets better, but I've been hoping that for a long time. So I don't know. I don't know. And the other thing is there are so many places that are cutting back now. You see internships that are being cut. You see journalism schools like either cutting enrollment or cutting their programs altogether. And so it's difficult to have avenues to break into the business, especially for people of color. So
yeah, like for humans, there's fewer roles than ever now. The Toronto Sun is interesting to me because I've had almost not all of them, but I've had most of the sports journalists, writers for the Toronto Sun over here to chat, most of them. And every time somebody retires, I notice they don't add a body.
No,
like it's just, what I mean?
Exactly.
And so Steve Buffery's not there anymore. Like it's like, I think the youngest staff member there might be Ryan Wallstatt, who covers the Raptors, and he's like my age. You know what I mean? Like
Terry might be younger.
We'll do a check. I'm gonna bet Ryan's younger than Terry. I'm gonna bet that. But Terry also an FOTM. But yeah, and no, forget at the Toronto Sun, they're all white guys, right? They're white guys. There's no, forget women of color. There's no women. You know what I mean? So we got to start somewhere here. But it's Canada, especially Toronto. Especially Toronto is such a diverse city, in the GTA I'll speak, so not just Toronto, but
100%.
There's no reflection in sports media. If we can name check the 2 or 3 women we see on the television or here on the sports radio station that are actually women of color. So, but you're like, did you ever consider taking your talents to television or radio?
No, I was happy in my lane writing.
So you're more comfortable behind the typewriter,
yes.
Even though you've never used a typewriter.
I actually, when I was at CHRY, obviously a lot of our stuff was hand-me-downs from other radio stations. So like if I don't know,
Chum FM is going to upgrade to computers now.
Right. Then we would get their old board, and we would get their old mics, we would buy. Yes, exactly. And so for the longest time, even though other places had computers, we were still using typewriters.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah. Only because we couldn't afford computers. Like we're it's a college radio station. So we had to make do with what we had. And, going back to Minor Threat and, that whole DIY. Yeah, exactly.
Very punk of you.
DIY spirit. That's where a lot of us learned it, campus community radio station.
All right, I think I'm going to kick out your most mainstream jam now. I'm going to say this song we're going to kick out is the one where I think if we had the 20 random people on the subway, all 20 might know this one.
Oh, you think so?
Now, maybe 19 out of 20, because there's always that one person who's like, head has been in the sand for 40 years and I only listen to classical music. Or the people I find most interesting, I don't like music people. You meet these people? You ever met an I don't like music people?
No.
I have. I've met a couple of I don't like music. And then you think to yourself, like, are these the kind of people when they're walking the streets and somebody's walking their dog, they boot the dog, like they kick the dog? Like, who are these I don't like music people?
Where have you met these people? Like, I want to avoid those places.
They're out there. And one thing I've noticed is I sometimes want people to come back and kick out the jams. And I've had more than one conversation with an FOTM. That means friend of Toronto Mike. You're now an FOTM. Where we like, hey, like, what are your jams? Do you want to come in and talk about it? And they're like, oh, I don't really like music. Like I've had that with people, and I won't name these people because these are, protect their identity, to protect the guilty. But absolutely some people don't want to come back and kick out the jams because they don't like music enough to talk about music. So they're out there.
Wow.
But you're not one of them, and I'm glad. Here is your most mainstream jam.
Love it.
Hook it to her veins.
Yeah.
This is my favorite Prince song, I'll tell you right now.
Mine too.
Dig, if you will, the picture of you and I engaged in a kiss. The sweat of your body covers me. Can you, my darling, can you picture this? Dream if you can, a courtyard, an ocean of violets in bloom. Animals strike curious poses. They feel the heat between me and you. Just leave me standing alone in a world that's so cold. Maybe I'm just too demanding. Maybe I'm just like my father, too bold.
What a jam.
I love this song. It's awesome. Prince is awesome.
Prince was awesome, and he did it all, right? He'd play all the instruments. Prince did it all.
Everything. Like, I don't like to use the term like genius too freely, but I truly believe that he was a genius.
I think that would apply to Prince.
Yeah. And I think if you don't like Prince, that's a huge red flag for me.
Even the racist guy in what's the Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, like Prince, remember? Like, all his heroes are black. Okay. Shout out to Do the Right Thing. Love that movie. And When Doves Cry is my favorite Prince song because I'm not a deep Prince guy. Like, I kind of like what they played on CFTR and what was played on Much Music. That was kind of like my Prince. I have to say I'm a little bit of like a guilty pleasure for me is Bat Dance, okay? Because I was so excited about 1989's Batman, and that song, I want to know, we talked about high rotation on Much Music. I feel like they played it every half hour or something. Like, it was all over the place, and I love that they put the parts of the movie into the song, and where's your Batman, and this town needs an enema, and Vicky Dale. So yeah. I love Bat Dance, and I don't think that makes me very cool to say I like Bat Dance, but When Doves Cry is my favorite Prince song.
Mine too. That video was just so off the wall, that Bat Dance video. I love it, but it was very Prince at the same time.
Yeah. You had to be the right age, I think, for that to hit, and that was me in 1989, the summer of Batman. And we had a local, near my primary school, I was in primary school at the time, there was a local Burger King that had like a Batman promotion where you got this huge Coke or like a huge pop soft drink, and it was like a Batman cup. Like, this is like a vague memory I have, but I just remember it felt like this was the biggest for, what was I, 14 or whatever, 14 years old. This was the biggest thing in the universe when Batman was coming out in 1989. Like, there was nothing bigger. It was like the world has stopped. This is everything. It's funny how that doesn't happen anymore. There's nothing anymore that would excite me like that.
No. But also, I don't know if you remember Purple Rain when that came out. That was like huge.
Oh yeah, of course I remember.
Everything was like Purple Rain, like, And you want to talk about music that they played? A video that they played on Much Music, like 24/7. Like, anything off of that was a staple of.
Well, this is off of that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I just was thinking, like, what would excite me like that did? And I mean, we'll exclude like the birth of your children or whatever, yawn or whatever. Okay, been there, done that. But I would say world peace. Like, if there's like everyone got together tomorrow and like announced, okay, world peace. We're all going to live in harmony, regardless of religion or culture or God or whatever. And then that might be as big as Batman was to me in 1989.
Wow, really?
That's how big it was. Okay.
Do you still have the cup?
Nope. Don't have the cup. I don't have the cup. I think I have a VHS copy maybe of Batman somewhere. Anyway, but great song. But now, okay, what I haven't got you to yet is The Athletic, okay?
Right.
And everybody's yelling, like, isn't she like, okay, don't even tell me. I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Isn't she like a senior editor for The Athletic in Canada? So, and we didn't talk about Yahoo. So tell me what happens after the Toronto Star, where you were for a decade.
So, Steve McAllister says, do you want to come and work with me at Yahoo? You can cover junior hockey full time. You don't have to worry about doing the copy editing during the day and then doing the hockey on your days off. You can just focus on the hockey. So I was like, sure. So I ended up going to Yahoo Sports.
Yahoo Sports.
Yeah.
Okay, how long were you at Yahoo Sports?
6 years.
Okay, good for you.
I know. It was a long time.
And then what happens with Yahoo Sports? Why do you leave Yahoo Sports?
Then I get laid off, like almost everyone in our industry.
Right.
I get laid off, and I go and work part-time at the CBC doing news, which I loved because it was something completely different and new. I had never done.
Like, can you be more specific? Like, what do you mean? Were you working on the TV side, the radio side?
So I was working on the web desk.
Okay.
So I was doing copy editing of news stories. I was also working on features, feature editing while I was there, but on the website, fully digital.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was an amazing learning experience. And it actually, I think it helped me grow as an editor working there, doing something different that was outside of sports.
Were you full-time or was this
No, I was
part-time?
part-time.
Okay.
I was part-time.
So, okay, that's cool. And just because we got 2 more jams to go here, and I do want to spend a little time on the Athletic. Like, how does this opportunity arise? Like, how do you end up at the Athletic?
So while I was at CBC, the Athletic had just started. I think they might have been like 6 or 7 months into the Toronto operation. And Sean Fitzgerald, who is a very dear friend, said, hey, we need a copy editor. Might you be interested in coming and doing some copy editing for us?
And he was a very early hire at the Athletic.
He was. And I think he had spoken to James Myrtle and they were on board. And at that point, honestly, I was looking to exit the industry because I thought, like, I'm just going to do this part-time CBC thing and look for a full-time job outside of the industry. And they were like, will you work part-time for us? And so I was like, okay, fine. Like, if you need help, I will work part-time for you and then work part-time for the CBC until I find a full-time job outside of the industry.
Okay, so I went into the Toronto Mic'd archives, and it is a pretty early episode. In fact, we're not even taking a photo by the tree yet, okay. So it is James Myrtle and Sean Fitzgerald, put a hyphen between Fitz and Gerald. They came over to discuss this new venture, the Athletic. So we're back in, this is 2017 when they come over. And they were early Canadian hires for the Athletic, focusing on Toronto. And we talked about what is this thing. And it's exciting that all these years later, the Athletic's still going. That's great for sports journalists like yourself.
Yeah, so I started in June. I'm not sure what month they were on your show.
January.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
January 2017.
So I started in June of 2017 there part-time. And then in September, they were like, we want to bring you on full-time, and you can work from home. And so I had, my son was in daycare at that time, and I was commuting, from my home all the way downtown for the CBC gig. And so I was like, you know what, if I can work from home, like, it's just going to be so much easier.
Yeah, for that work-life balance.
And so I said, okay, fine. I know I'm trying to get out of the business, but I will come.
But where were you going to go?
I was looking for comms jobs, looking to move into communications.
Right.
So
any regrets though you didn't do that? I feel like that's a pretty good place for a sports journalist in 2023.
You know what? No, only because I don't know if I would have had the work from home thing. Because remember, this was long before. Yes, this was long before the pandemic. So, no, I don't think so.
Look, I've been working from home since 2011. And I remember at the time, that was the holy grail. Like, if you could find the work from home gig, and that's what I had, worked for a German software company, and I got to work from my home office. And it was like, not many people had that luxury. And you're like, this is the way to live. Like, you suckers going to the office, like, what's wrong with you? And then, of course, the pandemic hits. And then it's like, everyone and their uncle is like, oh, I can work from home now. It's like, I had that. That was my special thing, but it's gone now. So you took the gig at the Athletic. So we're going to kick out this penultimate jam, your second last jam, and then I'm going to grill you with more Athletic questions. But here, let's get a little hip hop in the mix here.
I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke. Now I slam it when I'm done and make sure it's broke. When I'm gone, no one gets on, cause I won't let nobody press up and mess up the scene I set. I like to stand in the crowd and watch the people wonder, damn. But think about it, then you understand. I'm just an addict, addicted to music. Maybe it's a habit, I gotta use it. Even if it's jazz or the quiet storm, I hook a beat up, come converted into hip-hop form. Write a rhyme and graffiti in every show you see me in. Deep concentration, cause I'm no comedian. Jokers are wild if you wanna be tame. I treat you like a child, then you're gonna be named another enemy, not even a friend of me. Cause you'll get fried in the end when you pretend to be competing. Cause I just put your mind on pause and I complete when you compare my rhyme with yours. I wake you up and as I stare in your face, you seem stunned. Remember me, the one you got your idea from. But soon you start to suffer, the tune will get rougher. When you start to stutter, that's when you had enough of fighting. It'll make you choke, you can't provoke, you can't cope. You should have broke because I ain't no joke.
This is my hip hop right here. Wow. Okay. What are we listening to?
Eric B. and Rakim.
Early too. Like I feel like this is like a really early jam from these guys.
Paid in Full. This was like the first thing I bought with the first hip hop album I bought with my own money.
That's exciting. So it wasn't Run DMC like everybody else.
No, it was this, and I remember reading an interview at one point where Rakim said that he purposely wrote his rhymes for this album without any swearing so that they could get radio play so that he could get paid in full.
Right. 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 And
So I loved that. Like, absolutely loved that.
And as you know, Eric B is president, so this is
Yes.
awesome. Okay.
Yep.
Love it so much. So you not only rocker, you mentioned you had an eclectic taste off the top here. So are we going to get like 10? I was like, are we going to get 10 headbanger jams? Like where I wish I had more hair and I could just do my thing or whatever. But no, you're mixing up some great hip hop here too. So you're eclectic in your tastes.
And Flava Flav is in this video. So that was kind of my Public Enemy tangent.
There's a guy I'm glad is still with us. Like I think they're in their 60s now, for sure they are. I think, but Flav, like, and a lot of people, you know, because Public Enemy nowadays, like when I talked to Chuck, it was Public Enemy Radio,
Right.
which is Public Enemy minus Flav because Flav had a border issue.
Right.
I think I caught I know I was at the last Public Enemy proper gig in Toronto, which was amazing, like the best thing ever. But okay, so where am I here? A lot of people are like, oh, you know, Chuck D and the Bomb Squad, like, and now it's DJ Lord. It used to be, of course, Terminator X. But like that's Public Enemy. I'm like, no, my Public Enemy includes Flav. Like,
Yeah.
I need that Flav in there. Like it's part of the package. Like I feel like you can't. It's too much. You can't be Chuck D without a little Flav in the mix.
Yeah. And he was also doing that Prophets of Rage stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's all over the place here. I love that guy.
Are you familiar with Run the Jewels?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so their dynamic kind of reminds me a little bit of Run the Jewels in that, you know, Killer Mike is rapping about injustice and politics and things of that nature, and LP is rhyming about the size of his dick. So, yeah.
all the ground is covered there.
Yeah.
What exactly are you doing with The Athletic today?
Today, I'm looking after 3 NBA teams. I've got writers in 3 NBA markets, and I manage. Sorry, I've got four writers.
You can't keep
in
track of
3
them all.
I know 4 writers in 3 markets, and so I manage them and take care of them.
Which markets?
I've got 2 in Boston, covering the Boston Celtics, Jay King and Jared Weiss. I've got Eric Green, the awesome.
You know, I invited him on the show years ago, and he politely, it wasn't the right time. He politely took a pass. Should I take another? I feel like Eric should come on Toronto Mike.
I think so. You can try. I don't think.
The worst he could say is no.
Exactly.
But,
yeah. The awesome Eric Green.
Because he's the guy, right? He's the
Raptors.
guy who kind of brought the term hot take into the forefront.
Yes, he
right?
did. He was the originator of the hot take.
Wow. Okay, that alone gets you on Toronto Mike. But I did pre-pandemic, I did reach out to Eric. Thought he'd be a natural, and maybe I'll take another run at that. And I think if Ryan Wallstad is listening, because I mentioned him earlier, he covers the NBA for the Toronto Sun. He covers the Raptors specifically, but he loves his hip hop. He's more of a '90s hip hop guy, but I think he definitely appreciate that jam. But your final jam will be right in Ryan's wheelhouse.
I just also want to say Kelly Iko, who covers the Houston Rockets, is also part of my group too.
I'm glad you finished. Don't leave anyone out. You can't keep track of them all.
I don't want to forget Kelly.
How are the Raptors doing so far? How are they doing?
I think that sigh says
Big
a
sigh.
lot.
That's a Masai.
I think I don't know. Did you see their game on Saturday against the Celtics?
No.
Okay. Well, I think in that game you saw where the bar was set, and by the Celtics, and you saw where the Raptors are, and it's not quite. It's not quite there. I think they've got to make a few decisions as they head towards the trade deadline in February.
Okay, so speaking of decisions, Masai once made a decision to trade for Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Okay, this happened. This happened,
Yes.
everybody, okay? We remember, okay.
Yes.
I find it interesting as I monitor the NBA because I'm a fan. I do find it interesting what's going on with the Clippers. Like I find that whole dynamic fascinating. I think they're 0-4 since James Harden joined the Clippers. But like you look at that team and then you see the results. Like they lost to a bad team, right? Like this is yesterday. Is that yesterday they lost to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I just find it interesting. Kawhi makes this decision to go home, and he didn't re-up with Toronto, and that's fine. But imagine this alternative history where Kawhi Leonard signs again, let's run it back with the Toronto Raptors and that core is still intact, instead of doing what he does, which is goes to the Clippers, and well, we've seen what's happened there.
But I honestly think that's one of the reasons why I love the NBA so much is just the drama of it, like the James Hardens, the Kyrie Irvings.
Right.
There's always something. It's a bit soap opera-ish to some extent. But yeah, I mean, do you remember how crazy people in Toronto were about re-signing?
Yes, I do.
Restaurants,
Helicopters were following
it was
Kawhi.
like the OJ chase,
Right?
And restaurants were offering him free meals,
Right.
Yeah, it was nuts.
But we got the chip. Like, do you sometimes look back and say, like, it's amazing that all came together because for whatever reason, and maybe it's probably because we're based in, Canada, the only franchise in Canada right now. But like these guys like Kawhi Leonard, when they're able to choose their destinations, they don't come here. Like they just don't come here. So you got to there has to be a perfect storm of trades and balance and stuff to create a team. And then we did it. Like we won the 2019 NBA championship. We could easily live the rest of our life and never, ever get another chip for those aforementioned reasons. Like it's kind of amazing that perfect storm took place and that we were able to win it.
Yeah, I think it's actually rare that those things work because you see how many other teams in the league have built, super teams. You look at a team like the Nets or like the Sixers. They try and build these super teams, and
right.
it collapses like in the most miserable way.
Yeah. These super teams, which we didn't have them growing up, these super teams, but I feel like the Celtics were the first when they brought in Ray Allen and like there was a Celtics super team that did win the championship.
With the big three in 2018.
Well, earlier than that, I think. Much earlier than that, I think. But then, of course, the LeBron James taking his talents to South Beach. That was the super team that won 2 out of 4.
Yes.
And I think they went to the finals all 4 years. So, okay, we'll keep our eye on everything. But part of me, I will admit this too. I talked about Schadenfreude off the top when I see the Oilers are having a shitstorm of a season. But part of me, since Kawhi Leonard said, I'm going home, I'm going to play for the Clippers, I've been like rooting against the Clippers ever since. Like, I just kind of like the idea that Kawhi, you made the wrong choice. You will never win again. And so far, so good.
Yeah.
Does that make me an asshole?
No, but there's also a lot of health issues with that team. Like Paul George is like always injured. Kawhi's had injury issues. I don't wish him ill.
No, I don't want him to be like hurt.
No.
I just would like the Clippers not to win the NBA championship with Kawhi. Like I know this. I think it makes me an asshole.
I don't think you have to wish too hard right now, Mike, for that to happen.
I'm getting my way. So the Athletic. Who's the current ownership of the Athletic?
The New York Times.
So how is that going since that big change? Like that was a significant change.
Yeah, it's going well. We are grateful to have had Alex and Adam, who were there before the New York Times bought us, but it's going well. The transition has been good.
Okay, good. Like, and if it wasn't going well, you wouldn't tell me anyway. So this is good. Mark, when Mark heard that you were coming on, said, "I'm here for Sanaya's updates on wacky names of draftees."
That's like my favorite. That's my favorite thing. The Western Hockey League draft. And I don't think they're necessarily wacky names. I mean, obviously, I'm somebody that has a different name.
Sunaya.
Yes, yeah. It's not like a traditional North American name.
Nope.
But I love some of the names that appear in the Western Hockey League draft. Like,
so I did look at your tweet, because I like these as well. So I'm just gonna run off just a few of these names before we get to your final jam. But and I'm gonna cherry pick some of my favorites here.
Okay.
But Steel Bass, or is it Bass?
I think
Bass. How low can you go?
Yes.
What is it? Steel Bass?
I think it's Steel Bass.
Okay, Steel Bass though is an amazing name.
Yeah.
Right, we can agree. Okay, but Koi Funk. Okay, Koi, Koy Funk. Is an amazing name. Can you imagine Steel Bass? Although I want to change it to Bass. So it's Steel Bass and Koi Funk playing for the same team.
Yeah, the thing I really love about the draft is like sometimes I'll mention like loving a name, and then somebody's parent will be like, "That's awesome! We're so happy you like it. He was named after like his grandfather." And that's the thing that I love the most is when I find out how their names came to be.
Fenton Man. I think that's a pretty good name. And here's a great name too. Hayden Iron Shirt. Get that on a jersey. Imagine your jersey on the back it says Iron Shirt.
That would be awesome. Like that, that is a great name. And the other thing is, like, if I was writing a play or a movie or a book, like these are definitely names that I would steal.
Right.
For whatever
for
project.
your character name. Okay, then one last name, just because I wonder if he's related. So there's a player you shouted out named Zaid Penner, and this is the Western Hockey League. Of course, Fred Penner lives a lot of his time now. He spends a lot of his time in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I just wonder if Zaid Penner has any relation to Fred Penner, and maybe that's an Athletic article. We got to dig into this and see if you can write about this for the Athletic. So you find out for me if Zaid Penner is related to Fred Penner. Yes, if you don't mind. Fred Penner also a great FOTM. Okay, so let's kick out this final jam, and then we'll mop up, and we're gonna play the uncensored version because that's how we roll on Toronto Mics. So cover your children's ears.
Let me rock it. Let me catch. You ready? Let me bone.
Solomon's ancestor. Yo,
what's up, son?
What's up, kid? What's going on, kid?
Yo, man, I'm just doing my thing, man. What up, man? Chilling out this shit. Yo, 245 here. 2 o'clock. You know how we be working, man.
Cash moves everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no job. Had second hands. Moms bounced on old man. So then we moved to Shallon Land, a young youth, yo, rocking the go-to, low goose. Only way I begin to G-York was drug loot. And let's start it like this, son, rolling with this one and that one, pulling out gats for fun. But it was just a dream for the team who was a fiend. Started smoking wools at 16, and running up in gates and doing hits by high stakes, making my way on fire skates. No question I was speed for cracks and weed. The combination made my eyes bleed. No question I would flow off and try to get the dough off. Sticking up white boys on board. My life got no better. Same damn low sweater. Times is rough and tough like leather. Figured out I went the wrong route. So I got with a sick ass click and went all out. Catching keys from cross seas. Rolling in MPVs. Every week we made 40 G's. Yo, nigga, respect my a nigga to tech notch. Bow. Move from the gate now.
Cash moves everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, yo. Cash moves everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, yo. It's been 22 long hard years.
Amazing. What are we listening to?
The Wu-Tang Clan and Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me, off of their like unbelievably awesome album 36 Chambers.
Is this your favorite hip hop album of all time? Maybe.
It's up there for sure. For sure. Like, I was thinking about it. If there was like a zombie apocalypse, like I would protect this album.
You got to protect your neck first.
and this my neck and this album. Just because when it came out, I just remember like it was like the air had been sucked out of the room. It was just so awesome. Like it was a game changer. I'd never heard anything like it.
We talked earlier about the Kung Fu movies.
Yes.
We talk about Bollywood, so.
Yes. Yeah, and I love that too. Like, Shaolin Assassin, Lone Wolf and Cub, like they incorporated that into their music, and I love the fact that they would just throw weird stuff into their rhymes too. Like, I think it's Protect Your Neck, where he's RZA is rhyming about, I got more family feuds than Richard Dawson. I caused more family feuds than Richard Dawson.
Right.
You're like, who's rapping about Richard Dawson?
Beastie Boys.
But you know what I mean? Like,
No, but that's a very Beastie Boys thing. You're absolutely right. But what I always loved as a youngster listening to Paul's Boutique or whatever were, or even more recently, I got mad hits like I was Rod Carew, like all these like shout outs to these members, pop culture people and stuff. Amazing. Do you remember when RZA was rapping as Rakim? Do you remember we love you, Rakim? Do you have any memory of this? Memory of this? Ooh, we love you, Rakim. Like to blow a kiss. Just saw it on Rap City one day as a teenager and never forgot it, to be quite honest. Okay, so cash rules everything around me. I waited for those words so I could tell people about the Raymond James Canada podcast. See what I'm doing there? The Advantaged Investor. Because whether you already work with a trusted financial advisor or currently manage your own investment plans, the Advantaged Investor provides the engaging wealth management information you value as you pursue your most important goals. By the way, fun fact, since you know a lot about junior hockey, etc., the host of The Advantaged Investor, which people should subscribe to right now, is a gentleman named Chris Cooksey, whose son is Cole Cooksey, who is a hell of a hockey player. He's actually playing for an American university right now in the NCAA, but he's a hell of a hockey player, Cole Cooksey. So I'm just throwing that name out there into the Cole Cooksey. Shout out to the Cookseys and that great podcast there. So how was your Toronto Mike debut? How was it?
it was awesome. And can I just say props to you on that segue? That was pretty awesome.
I held on to that one because I knew at some point we were going to hear cash rules everything around me. We lost ODB so way too soon, eh?
For sure. But now his son has joined them like on stage and on their tours. So, and he sounds like eerily similar.
Wow.
So
okay, on that note, since you talk about sons who sound similar, so I just rewatched The Sopranos in its entirety because my wife had never seen The Sopranos, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time. So I just rewatched it. We literally watched the finale like 3 nights ago. So I don't know, there's like 85 or so episodes. We get through it. But then what I did right after the finale is I decided to watch, because I'd never seen the movie, The Many Saints of Newark, which is a prequel, which is sort of like how you get Tony Soprano. And Tony Soprano in The Many Saints of Newark is played by James Gandolfini's son, Michael Gandolfini.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
So it's actually kind of interesting because, so teenage Tony is in this movie played by James Gandolfini's son. So that's sort
really
of like what you're talking about with ODB there.
Yeah.
All right, Sunaya. By the way, it's funny because your name is pronounced the way it's spelled, and for some reason, though it's a simple, beautiful name, Sunaya. Am I saying it right? Sunaya.
Yeah.
I know. It's funny how it trips you up. Do you find people butcher it?
All the time, like all the time.
They move the Y up, maybe like Sunyaya, or I'm wondering how do they typically butcher it?
In any way possible. Like, yeah. Sometimes I even get like Soraya or Sonia. Yeah.
Sonia, have you ever considered changing it to Sonia?
No.
No, good for you. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
I don't even like nicknames except for Mary calling me Sunny. That's it.
Sunny.
Yeah, she's the only one.
Well, shout out to Mary Ormsby. She might be listening. She's a fan of the program here, and when she sees you're on, I think she'll definitely cherry pick this episode. Before we say goodbye with some lowest of the low, I know you do listen. Like, do you have any like favorite episodes of Toronto Mike?
You know what? I really liked the Biff Naked interview, only because I thought her music taste was like I loved
Pantera?
Yes, Walk, awesome. Like I really liked her music. I really liked the Chuck D interview only because that part at the end where he mentions that the album title came from a Now magazine article.
Yes.
Like, that was crazy to me.
Yeah,
That blew my mind.
And that gentleman actually has a show on CBC.
Oh, do you know who wrote that article?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you in 2 seconds because you keep telling me about
Okay.
Toronto Mic'd episodes, and I'll find out. Yeah.
So, and then of course Mishi Me, love Mishi Me. So
I love her too.
I liked her episode as well, and then the OG Maestro Fresh Wes. That was a great episode too.
Yeah, he's living in New Brunswick now.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, he moved out like during the pandemic. He moved out here, but yeah, I love that guy too. Okay, and do you ever listen to like fellow sports media people?
I listened when Sean was on. Sean Fitzgerald.
Oh yeah, well yeah, he's been over a few times. You have to do that. How's he doing these days, by the way? Did you ever
He's
contact
good. You
him?
know what? I actually had lunch with him last week, and he's doing well.
Did you tell him you were coming over?
I did.
Because he likes to tell you that you're coming to Mimico, and then I get all mad. Like, this is like a recurring bit we have where he tells me he's in Mimico, and then I say, you're not in Mimico, and I get all angry, like a wrestler or something.
He told me to be prepared because he said Mike will throw
You got
all
nothing.
kinds of
No,
questions.
sometimes I do
at
that.
you. Yeah.
For you know what? I said, no, she's getting a pass. She's lovely. She brought me pastries, and we're kicking out the jam. She got paid. The gentleman who I believe it's Errol Nazareth.
Oh, okay.
And Errol Nazareth, of course, has a great program on CBC Radio. And actually, I did ask him to come out and kick out the jams, and he's been noodling it for 10 years now. But yeah, he was shouted out by name by Chuck D. And what I figured, here's what happened. So Chuck D, who I've loved forever, well, at least, since you bum rushed the show, I love Chuck D. And now I'm getting my 20, I think they said 20 minutes. That's what they said to me, even though I think he would have gone much longer, but there was like a lady in the corner, like tapping the watch. Like I had 20 minutes, and I don't normally say yes to 20 minutes. In fact, Jason Priestley is coming on the program and they said 20 minutes and I said, no, like Jason Priestley's not Chuck D, but I said yes to Chuck D because he's Chuck D. And I said, I'll do 20 minutes. And it was in person. But, what I decided is like, I don't want to he's done a million interviews and we can hear Chuck D anywhere, but who's asking Chuck D about the Toronto scene with DJ Ron Nelson and playing the first hip hop shows and touring Ontario? Like, so I'm like, I know where I'm going with him because you're not going to get that anywhere else. And it worked out very well.
I had no idea that they played places like Sudbury. Like that was like, I would have loved to go and see them in Sudbury.
And it's
like
fun to just hear Chuck D just say the word Sudbury. Like that was kind of a thrill. But Errol Nazareth, if you're listening, because I love how this guy talks about music. I think his show is called Big City, Small World, and it's every Saturday on CBC Radio 1. And apparently he's like buds with Chuck D. So not like they're actually friends now. In fact, I'm looking at a photo of him wearing a Chuck D shirt, so a Chuck D hat. So Errol Nazareth, future FOTM, but current FOTM. Sunaya, love this very much.
Thank you so much, Mike, for having me on. This was so much fun.
What's next for you? You're gonna just enjoy your good work at the Athletic, or do you have a vision in mind of where you'd like to go?
No, just trying to take every day as it comes. Like seriously, just trying to survive.
Just trying to survive. Remember, cash ruins everything around you. So
that's right.
Don't forget that.
Dollar bills, y'all.
And that brings us to the end of our 1365th show. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Toronto Mike. How can we follow you, Sunaya?
On X, I guess, at Sunaya S, and I'm also on Blue Sky at the same handle, Sunaya S.
Is Blue Sky going to take off at some point? Like, I'm there and I'm kind of keeping the fires burning, just assuming one day Elon is going to chase me out of the app formerly known as Twitter. But it is missing people. Like, I have to say, like, I can go all day and like there's like, and it's all Norm Wilner, maybe a little Mike Wilner. It's just, there's not a lot going on there.
No, I hope it does take off. But I mean, a lot of the people I love are to follow are there. So I'm going to keep going with it. So, yeah. I mean, the other place is pretty much a hellscape now, so it's tough.
Still, hellscape, absolutely. But still the best game in town, which is kind of interesting to me.
I wish more sports people would move over to Blue Sky. There's definitely a dearth of sports people at Blue Sky. So, yeah.
Shout out to Mike Wilner. And much love to all those who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. That's Palma Pasta. That's Raymond James Canada. That's Moneris. That's Recycle My Electronics. And Ridley Funeral Home. See you all. This is where in real time. I should always do this ahead of time, but I'm going to in real time tell you who's next on the program. Okay, Blair Packham is coming here to kick out the jams on Wednesday. We haven't had Blair on the show, and he's going to kick out much like you. He said his first jam kicking was like slower like songs, and he wants to kick out the hard stuff. So we're going to get the hard stuff from Blair Packham on Wednesday. See you all then.
'Cause everything